So, the spoilers are out for My Hero Academia Manga Chapter 400, and let's just say that this chapter does not disappoint with what is going on, as this is the 400th chapter, and what we get with the spoilers, it fits the bill, and you'll get to see why that's the case, but first, right after this. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Man Drew, and I'm here to cover the spoilers for My Hero Academia Manga Chapter 400. Yes, it is the big 4-0, something that many people have been anticipating for a while, and let me just say that when it comes to what we're getting in this chapter, it definitely doesn't disappoint. Now, for some people, it may not be to their liking, but for me, this seems to be a perfect way to end off the chapter at Chapter 400, especially with what we get at the end of the chapter. So, you know what? Let's get rid of all of this hullabaloo and just dive right into the chapter spoilers. And to start off, the chapter title of Chapter 400 is titled The World, and that's going to be most likely important for what we're getting in this chapter. But the chapter begins with Aoyama seeing Hagakure naked, which makes her run away embarrassed. She says that this has never happened before, but remembers the moment when they discovered that Aoyama was the traitor and her face became partially visible. She thinks that the adrenaline of risking her life on the battlefield may have caused her quirk to, quote, glitch. She also notices that Aoyama's naval laser has gotten stronger, but he says that now they need to focus on destroying the plants and saving all the pro heroes. Even if Kunita is unconscious, the plants may continue to grow. He asks Hagakure to use the light to burn the roots that are growing inside their bodies, and she asks about his tummy, but Aoyama says that he'll give it his all because today is his last day as a UA student. And this is very interesting because of the implications going on with Aoyama. But let's talk a little bit more about Hagakure and how it's just a very funny moment. Me personally, I'm not bothered by the fact that she's naked because it is primarily used for a joke as being used in this scene most likely, but also just fits with someone who has been naked all their life, finally seeing their body out in the open and not perceiving themselves to be naked. So that doesn't bother me, but there's a fair amount of implications that she can make with what Aoyama is saying here. It could be that he is no longer going to be a student, as if he's going to no longer be in UA, or that he's no longer going to be a UA student, but maybe actually more of a sidekick and just leave UA altogether. We don't know exactly what that could be, but there are many implications for it. And diving into the next part of the text spoilers, we cut to All Might's fight, and he says that the strategy of using a laser to cause massive damage and meddle with his region was inspired by Star's battle. All For One tries to escape, but All Might stops him using earphone jack sound waves. It is then revealed that the end of the previous chapter, All Might used Tentacle and the Thrusters to escape from All For One and protected himself from the laser with Armor's Invisible Girl optic resins. He reduced the impact of All For One's punch with Tailman, but the lower half of his body is in tatters. He's still smiling, saying that All For One was stupid for not aiming for the head just because he wanted to see the former symbol of peace agonized Grimace so bad. And what we get from this part of the text spoilers, we get a more or less better explanation for how this situation is going down. More specifically, how All Might was able to avoid getting damaged by the laser while the laser being heavily placed upon All For One. As well as we get more references to the other students of Class 1A with different parts of the suit, as well as we're going to get a little bit more references in the later part of the text spoilers. And as we see with the next part of the text spoilers, that's when there are several tendrils that started coming out of the laser, hitting All Might. All For One is trying to free himself, but All Might turns parts of his armor into spheres, with armor morphing creatine and those spheres sticking All For One's hands to the ground, grape juice. The armor is very destroyed, but All Might can't stop laughing, saying that the joy is numbing the pain. Cut to an old lady and her grandson watching the fight in another country. The child asks who's that on the TV, and his grandmother says that she doesn't know much about heroes. The child asks what will happen to them if the hero wins, and the old lady says nothing, since it's all happening in a faraway country. But the boy can't take his eyes off the TV and starts rooting for the All Might's victory. And this part of the chapter is very interesting. Once again, we get more references to other characters in the class, most likely Create Momo and Mineta Grapejuice. But what was even more interesting is the cutting away from the fight and seeing some individuals in a foreign country seeing the fight and still trying to support other heroes, or specifically All Might. And this is something very interesting because this isn't the first time we've seen something like this. We've actually seen it a few other times throughout the story, not just with like that big collage, but also with the Todoroki subplot. So we're really seeing how, even though this fight is primarily taking place in Japan, that it is affecting people all over the world and showing that people are trying to have faith and hope in All Might and the heroes winning in Japan, because whether or not they know it, what happens in Japan will affect the rest of the world, for better or for good, or for worse or for bad. But now we're approaching the end of the tech spoilers, where we apparently cut back to the fight and the car that was shooting the laser explodes, freeing All for One. We then see that he looks like a child and his body is emitting light. All Might calls him a rugrat, but All for One responds, "You forgot to smile, dear friend." Something that looks like an arm starts to come out of All for One's back, but then suddenly his whole body freezes. Everyone's blood is equally red. Stain arrives with his glider licking All for One's blood from a debris and shouting, "Go, All Might!" End of chapter. And remember how I said that this chapter 400 is pretty much a very good way to end chapter 400 and this very like monumental milestone? Yeah, we ended with Stain returning and playing a crucial part in the battle to potentially defeat All for One. Like, that's a crazy reveal, and yeah, that's pretty much where the chapter ends. Like, for the most part, what this chapter was primarily fighting, with some more characterization for characters such as Aoyama and Hagakure, as well as like diving a little bit more into the world as a whole and seeing how people are reacting to this fight as it's going on. And even though it may not be as like bombastic or as impactful as maybe previous other milestones in the chapter, I think really in hindsight, when it comes to these milestones, they aren't as big or as crucial moments as the ones that were specifically tailored to, let's just say, the Todoroki family subplot. But even so, I still think that this is a good way, most likely, to end off the 400s and going into, most likely, the ending of the series, which is going to be coming very soon. But yeah, that's all I really have to say for the spoilers for this chapter. There wasn't really that much, mainly because a lot of what we got was action, and this wasn't really a very much heavy dialogue chapter, but from what we've seen, this is going to be a very, very beautiful chapter with a lot of very much impactful action, as well as beginning to end the fight between All for One and All Might properly. But let me ask you this, what did you think of the chapter spoilers? Did you like them? Did you dislike them? And are you hyped for this chapter 400? Leave your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!